Hey there, here's a quick note before we begin. You can support the podcast by downloading, sharing, or checking with my favorite hiking gear at justhyke.com. Let's hit the trail. Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. My name is Melanie. My company name is Just Hyke, where we motivate and encourage women to be the best that they can be, especially on the hiking trails, because I love to hike and I love to get out there and be outdoors and with nature. Today, my guest is Kelly Howard. Hi, Kelly. Glad you're here.
Hey,
Kelly is a women's fitness consistency expert with a touch of adventure. She gets ready for fitness and fun and freedom. She helps business women, entrepreneurs, and executives create vibrant, healthy, and adventurous lives through fitness consistency, wellness, and a touch of fun. She also leads corporate adventure retreats, which I really want to learn more about. She helps unlock collaboration, growth, and resilience by stepping outside their comfort zones. Literally, yes, getting out on
right.
those nature trails and get people out of their comfort zones for sure. Kelly, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've always been active.
Uh,
That's just been me. But I really didn't get into true outdoor activities until maybe, well, it's probably been 25 years ago now. But I used to sail. I raced sailboats and I did long distance skating races and
oh,
things like
wow.
that. But that was what I did. And then one day I ended up buying a company that was an outdoor activities company and realized that I need to learn how to do all these things. Right. So like I was always just learning, like right before I'd take people out on a trail or on a bike ride or whatever. And it was so good for me because it gave me all this fun and adventure that I hadn't had. I mean, I loved skate racing. I loved it. And I love sailboat racing. But just to be able to kind of dial it back a little bit and get out on the trails, I just found a whole new love.
That's so awesome. And so you're located where? You're in the Houston
I'm in
area
Houston,
or
Texas.
you're in Houston, Texas? That's what I thought. So, what, why do you think strength training is so important for hikers, especially for women over the age of 40? What do you think about that?
Couple of things. One of them is that as we add years on our body, our muscles naturally decline. And when we're hikers and we love that hike, that long hike, it is so good for everything except for our muscles because we slowly start taking the muscle away as we do this long cardio. So to counterbalance that and to keep us upright and doing everything we need to be doing, that's where the strength training comes in. The other side of strength training, I think that people don't usually talk about is it does help us with the balance and knowledge of where our body is in space. So when you're on a trail and you hit a stump or you trip over something or whatever else, I think it really gives us the ability to recover quicker.
Nice. I want to jump back a minute and talk a little bit more about what was the long distance skating that's sticking in my head right now? I didn't know about that about you. Tell me more about the long distance skating. What is that?
Okay, so this goes back a long time ago. This goes back basically before the internet.
Oh, really?
I'm in my 30s and I just had this terrible breakup and I was just looking for something to do. I was a skater. I would go down to Galveston and skate on the seawall by myself all the time.
Oh,
And
like rollerblade skating kind of thing.
rollerblades, right?
Okay,
And
gotcha.
so I had the rollerblades and I was out there doing it by myself. And one day I'm at this place and this guy has this road rash all down his arm. And I'm thinking, you only get that a couple ways. One of them is skating. I said, so how'd you do that? And he's like, oh, I fell. I was like, so were you skating? And he said, yeah. I said, do you know anybody who skates? He's like, yeah, there's a group of us. We skate at night in Houston. I'm like, seriously. So I show up and
Really?
we were like hooligans without a doubt, like running the streets at night, all night long. But from that, I met some people who actually raced. And I'm good at distance. Like that's kind of my jam. It's always has been.
You have
So
that endurance gene in you.
yeah, I
Yeah.
just have that endurance. And about 3 or 4 of us started training for what's called A to A, which is the Athens to Atlanta skate race, which is about 86 miles. And
Wow.
that's the first time I ever did long distance racing. And I did really well. I had everything going for me. I was in good shape, and I live in Houston, which, the weather makes Atlanta look like the garden spot, right? And there were people coming from all over the world who show up and they're like, oh my gosh, I just landed in purgatory or maybe hell because it's so hot and so sweaty. And for me, it was like another day in the park. And then it got me going. And that became something I did for a while and really enjoyed it.
The other thing you said that you did a lot of sailing.
Yeah. The sailing, it was another one of those just like chance encounters. I was dropping off somebody that I dated down south of Texas to do a race. And so I'm walking back down the dock, and this guy says, where are you going? And I said, well, I'm driving back to Houston. He said, we need crew. I said, I don't sail. He said, I don't care. You can be rail beef, right? Where you move from one side of the boat to the other. And so I sailed back with them, and it was, I don't know, it was probably 2 nights or something like that. I like literally got on this boat, didn't even have a toothbrush. I was like, why not, right? Why not give it a go? It was so cool. And that just started. I literally found a boat, a big boat that wanted me as a crew. And I just raced for years on this, what's called an IRR, International Offshore Racing Boat. And it was just, I got to go everywhere, and we'd race across the Gulf, we'd race down to Mexico, and it was just fun.
Wow, that's so cool. I love your adventurous spirit. That's just so incredible. All right. So you have a lot of experience, especially long distance stuff, right? What do you think would be some foundational exercises that you would recommend for trail readiness? For someone, let's say if they're absolutely new to hiking, they're going on a corporate retreat, they have no idea what to expect. What would you say to them if they reached out to you?
Actually, I put together a training program for people like this
Do you?
because it's
Nice.
such a big deal. So you have to decide first where you're starting from. Like, are you a brand new beginner? Do you have some base to you, or do you have some experience going? Because that's going to determine where you start and where you go. All of it, I think, includes doing short, not long. You don't have to do long hikes, like short hikes, maybe once or twice a week, and maybe one longer hike on the weekend. And short to long, I really don't do distance. I do time and effort, because people will always say to me, how far do we go? How far do we go? How long did it take us? Right. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, we were out for an hour. How do you feel? That's what I'm really judging. Like, if you've been out for an hour and we did, our perceived effort was, I don't know, on a scale of 1 to 5, it was a 3. How do you feel? That's what you need to be looking at. So you start with those kind of basics. You add to it mobility. I mean, we really need to be moving our joints, especially once again, when you get to a certain number of years. Your joints aren't going to be as happy as they were when you were 20 years old and you could just jump on a sailboat and take off and, nothing hurt, right? So from that, you have to start doing a little bit of mobility. I'm not a big fan of just static stretching and just moving the joints in nice fluid motion. For everybody listening, I can tell you there is a reason to do this. You will go further better. I have tested it myself. I've tested it with my clients, where we actually go out, do a trail, keeping everything even. You go out, you do a trail, you don't warm up, you just hit the trail and go. Temperature's always
Okay.
about the same. And then the
Yeah.
next day you go out and do it again, but now you warm up before you take off. You shave time off your distance, and you feel better at the end, like time and time again. So you really want to add that mobility in. And then, nobody wants this, you need to add a little strength training in it.
Hmm.
And as you grow, you want to start adding a little bit of weight in your pack. Add a little bit of hills, add a little bit of distance, like mix it up. Because I had a group that just did a big hike. It was a big hike.
Was
A
that the
couple
Costa
hundred.
Rica one that I
It
saw?
was.
Saw that. I want to
And,
hear more about that later.
but the thing was that most everybody was training flat, so that when you get to the places where you've got elevation or movement, our bodies aren't ready for it.
Right.
So you really have to mix it up when you're training.
Do you like hill training?
I
Do
don't
you try
like
to
it.
incorporate that when you can find it?
Not my favorite thing to do. Yes, I do it.
Yes, I should clarify that. Like is a, yeah.
In
Do you
Houston,
recommend?
I recommend it always. And I
Yes.
recommend mixing it up. Like here in flat Houston town, I use parking garages, and
Uh-huh.
I'll walk up the stairs and down the ramps. I'll walk up the ramps and down the stairs, mix it
Yes.
up because, right, trails are never an equal distance apart in steps,
Right. Yeah. And
and I
sometimes
get
I'll do
done.
double steps. When I'm feeling good, I'll do
Oh,
double
yeah,
steps. Sometimes I do sideways steps. Would you recommend
right.
that?
There you
Because
go.
sometimes you're stepping sideways, like it's not a perfect step when
Right.
you're on that trail.
That's a great idea.
So, strength training. I think people have this idea in their head when you say the word strength training that you have to automatically go to a gym to do it and you have to spend like 2 hours or whatever. And I know that for me, that's just not correct. I
Right.
like to do a lot of my strength training at home. I have a couple of weights. I have a set of really heavy weights that I do farmer's carries with. And then I have more kind of medium weights that I'll do deadlifts with. And then I have some lighter weights and I use bands. I really like using resistant bands. But I can do all this at my house.
Oh, yeah.
I can spend like maybe 10 minutes a day working on a few different moves, and I feel like I'm doing pretty good. What do you recommend to people?
I think you just hit it, right? Like a lot of the people that I talk to, they don't want to go to the gym anymore.
Yeah,
And I haven't had a gym membership since 2019. I
right.
guess our gym closed down right then,
Yep,
maybe 2020. And so I bought everything that I needed, threw it in one of my rooms, and wow, that saves me 40 minutes a day of driving.
absolutely.
That's my workout, right?
Right,
So, and you don't have to just go crazy pants. And you do want to do a full body.
right.
Sometimes people will say to me, well, I work out on my legs. I'm like, good, but you need
But
your core,
what about
right?
your
You need your
shoulders?
shoulders. I mean,
Yeah,
you need all of it.
yeah,
And, you just do. And all of us do. And I think it has probably something to do with, the resistance to the gym initially, because gyms can be super intimidating
for sure they
and
can. Yeah,
you don't know what to do. You get there, you're like, I have no idea. And then you just leave.
right.
So there's a book out there called Habit Nest.
Okay.
Habit Nest home barbells or
Oh,
home
nice.
dumbbells, right? Super good book. And I love their stuff. Just get one, follow the pictures, follow the app on the phone, whatever, and just learn to lift a little bit of weight. Doesn't have to be much,
I
but it will
agree with
change
that.
everything.
I'm a personal trainer and I do in-home personal training for my clients. And, I can come in and set up like a short program or just spend a little bit of time with someone, teach them a few moves just to help get them started. Because if you don't know what you're doing at the gym, for sure you don't know what to do when you're
Right,
at home either. And so then
right,
people end up doing nothing. Now, I still have a gym membership and I do it just strictly for the entertainment value. I find it motivating going to the gym and especially going to classes. And then I'll also do the stair stepper at the gym. So there's a few things that I can do at the gym that I can't do on a regular basis. But with that said, the majority of my time for my fitness is either spent on the trails or at home, like 10 or 15 minutes a day, and I'm good. I do upper body, I do lower body, I do my back, I do my core, I do my legs. I mix everything up and I get a pretty well-rounded workout in. So if anybody needs help with that, and I love
yeah,
that
definitely,
habit nest. I'll have to look that up. Yeah.
yeah.
I think that sounds like a good resource for people.
It's a good resource, but if they've got you, that's even better.
Well, a little bit of everything helps, right? So how do you help women rebuild confidence in their bodies? So let's say you have someone who wants to start hiking or they want to go on an adventure, but they're a little shy about, you know, oh, I don't know if I can do that. What would you say to them?
So the number one thing I hear from, and I'm just going to say it from women, it's what encouraged me and actually made me start what I do now, is that people say, I don't want to hold people back. I just don't
Yeah,
want to hold people back. And if I can do all the mindset work, because really, like what I do is probably 80% mindset,
for sure.
really. Like
Yeah.
even going on an adventure trip,
Yes.
it's really all
It's
about, getting your head in the game. If I can get people to not worry about holding people back and to just try little things, like small steps, then just every time, like all of us know, like when you do something, you just do a small step, but you do it, you just feel that much better, right? And so the next day you just do a little teeny bit more. And a lot of times people will be, not only are they worried about holding people back, they think that the small steps aren't going to get them where they need to go. But wow, like what happens after just 30 days? Like everything changes, right?
it's like
It's a miracle. It is
yes.
a miracle. And we start realizing that our bodies, not only are they amazing, they're amazing forever. Like they can just do all these things. And then
Right.
if you
Yeah.
can also maybe find, if you don't have people to do things with, like one of my big pieces when I'm working with clients is helping them find, I mean, this sounds so silly, okay, but I will just say this, helping them find people to go play with. That
Right.
was my old business. And
Mhm.
what happens is that like once somebody finds a tribe, then it just gets easier and easier and easier.
Everything changes when you find like-minded people.
It does.
Absolutely. When I
I mean,
first, just to share a little bit, when I first started wanting to go and climb Mount Kilimanjaro, I asked around for almost a year, and either nobody wanted to go climb a mountain, right?
right.
That wasn't in their realm of what they wanted to do, or they had other mountains that they wanted to climb. So like there's like this metaphorical mountain, right? And then there's the actual physical mountain. But now, since I've gone to Kilimanjaro and I've come back and connected with other people in the in the local hiking community, now I have hundreds of people who I know are willing to go for a hike.
Right.
And it's just, I think it's a matter of, you know, getting those connections and slowly starting to build that network of people. It makes me think of, like you're the sum of the 5 people that you hang around.
Exactly.
So if you hang around
Exactly.
people who are not interested in hiking, it's pretty hard to get into hiking. But once you're
Yeah.
surrounded by 5 people who like hiking, well, guess what? Now you're planning trips. Now you're going on adventures together. Now you're doing short little hikes off in, just someplace close, right? Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
And you get a little bit challenged too, not like bad challenge, good challenge. I had a retreat this last weekend. We were in the Texas Hill Country.
Uh-huh.
And part of the deal with the retreat was that, there's, do you know Enchanted Rock? I mean, it's
Yes.
okay.
Mhm.
So Enchanted Rock, I mean, it's not this huge thing, but it's a big thing.
It's
Like
a
it's a
big deal
big
for
thing.
some people.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And some of the people didn't want to do it. And I was like, okay, we won't do it. But, some people are going to go do it. But then when we got there that day that some people were going to go do it, then everyone in a little bit of peer pressure kicked in. And what ended up happening was I had several people who hadn't planned on doing much of anything go halfway up. I'm
There
like,
you go.
brilliant, right?
Nice.
Brilliant. And now all of those people, all of those women, they're loving each other. They're texting each other. We've got a WhatsApp group and, they're cheering each other on to go do other things. And that's what I actually, I can't say live to do, but I'm pretty damn close. I love it.
Well, it's exciting, right? You're helping
Yeah.
people forge new friendships and getting those people together so that they have that group so that they can go and do more adventures and do more
Do more.
fun things and really
Yeah,
live life to the fullest.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's a beautiful thing to do. What's a common myth that you wish people would let go of when it comes to fitness?
Ooh, I guess there's a couple. One of them is what I alluded to earlier, is that you just want to go further and further, longer and longer, more time on the trail. I do believe that that's good. I do not believe that it's great for our bodies on a
Mhm.
consistent basis. When I say consistent, I mean like 2 or 3 times a week. I do what I like to call wild cards on the weekend. The weekend is whatever the heck you want to do, right? Just go as long as you want. If you want to go long, go long. But the rest of the time, realize that we are burning muscle after a certain, usually about an hour of hard cardio. You start burning muscle. So consider that and dial it back a little bit. Probably that is the least favorite thing that I tell people because you know how it is. Once you get it in your blood and you've enjoyed that going out and going hard and going far, you don't want to stop. And it's hard to do, but
That's interesting. Finding what's best for your body, right? Because sometimes
yeah,
we have to push it too far and to realize, oh, that was too far or that was enough and I don't need to go there again. It kind of reminds me of when I did my first weight loss journey. We're going to go back to my 30s, my first weight loss journey. I discovered running and I took a learn to run clinic and we trained for a 5K together. And it's like, oh, this was fun. And I was getting in the groove and I was losing weight and I was getting more fit and enjoying getting out there. And then I thought, okay, let's go further, right? Okay, let's do a 10K. Oh, yeah, 10K is a little bit of a push, but I'm going to get through it. But then I went and I did a half marathon and then I injured myself training for that half marathon. And it just kind of made me think, it's like, you know what? I was healthier and happier when I was training for the 5 and the 10K distance versus that marathon distance. And you can relate that to the hiking trails too.
you can.
I'm pretty happy on the hiking trail. 6, 7, 8 miles is kind of my happy sweet spot. By the end of the day, I'm done. Every once in a while, I'll do a 10 mile. But some people talk about 16 and 20 mile days, and it's like, yeah, I can do it, but it's not really my happy spot.
At what price, right? You can do
And
it.
at what price?
I think that sometimes hard driving women, successful women, attract other women like them. So we don't stop at the 5K or 10K because we're always needing to push harder. This is a lesson for me too. Like, trust me, like I am the queen of, well, if I can do that, what else can I do? And I've slowly learned to just do exactly what you just said. Know your happy place, do it. Occasionally do something else if you want, but we don't have to always be killing ourselves.
I agree. Find your happy place, and that's a good spot to be.
It
Yeah,
is.
absolutely. I love that. I want to talk to you a little bit about some of your retreats that you've done. I know I saw recently you had a group go to Costa Rica and they did like the El Camino in Costa Rica, like end to end or side to side. Tell me about that one first.
So yes, and I was not on that trip. I actually, in December, I was in Costa Rica and I fell
Oh
and
no.
injured my back. I'll just put it that way, and was out,
Okay.
out, like using a walker for a couple of months out.
Okay.
Okay. So I do that. So immediately I'm like, well, I'm not walking across the country. I know. So luckily, somebody that helps me with some of my retreats offered to lead the group. So they started in the Caribbean and hiked across, somebody in the middle, right? There's a mountain range that runs down the
Yeah.
middle of Costa Rica, and then came back down and ended at the Pacific. So it was about 12 days.
Wow.
They did it faster than most, about 16. Now, when I say most people, very few people have actually done this. This
Okay.
is a brand new thing. The Camino de Costa Rica maybe opened 2 years ago, maybe 3, but they've only had a few groups through. It's a new thing. Now, at some point, it's going to become the thing, kind of like, in Spain. But they had to do it fast because everybody worked. So they did it in 12 days. They had all kinds of accommodations. They had a guide that went with them the whole way, carried all their gear. Not they drove it. They drove the gear from, space to place to place. So they didn't
Oh,
have to
wow.
carry their
So
own
it
gear.
was like a day pack that they had to
So they
carry?
just used a day pack, and
Okay.
then it was not backpacking. So somebody carried their gear to the next place. Some nights they slept in tents, some nights they slept in like small casitas on people's property. Part of the reason for the Camino is to increase revenue and kind of like really tourism within the central area that doesn't get any of that.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Right. So these people are maybe doing coffee or maybe making some jelly and selling it on the side of the road. I mean, they're very rural. And so now this is something that helps build the economy in
That
that
sounds
area.
fascinating.
It is fascinating. And they
Yeah.
met the people got to meet them. It's a really good thing because, I mean, have you been to Costa Rica?
I have not.
Oh, so it is, well, obviously, for people who know me, it's one of my favorite places in the world because I end up going back nonstop.
Nice.
People are so kind. Like, it's an amazing group of people who live there. So they're meeting us, we're meeting them, and that's the Camino.
Very
So,
cool. I
yeah,
love that so much. How many, was it all women who
it
went
was
on
all
the
women.
trip?
There were only 4. We were going to be 6, and then one person had an illness in her family, and then there was me who wasn't walking, so there were only 4.
All right,
Yeah.
let's get back to that injury. So tell me what happened and where were you at, and were you
Oh,
able to get attention like right away, or were
so
you in a remote area?
no, I mean, I was not in a remote area, and I'm so glad to be talking to your crew because it did not occur to me until just a second when you said that. So here I am. I am in this nice hotel. We've been staying in this hotel on this retreat that we have for a couple of days. It's got all these fabulous hot tub pools and yada yada yada. We're loving it, right? We're getting ready to leave, and I'm walking quickly across the very serious tile floor in the restaurant, heading toward the bathroom, and one of my laces on one shoe or on one hiking boot caught the quick tie on
Oh,
the.
I got like flatlined.
So I'd never even heard of somebody doing this. After I posted like a PSA on social media, all these people are like, oh yeah, that's happened to me. That's happened to me. I'm like, no way. Like, this is crazy pants, y'all. And so a couple of things. One of them is I those boots are still in my closet. I
I
have
threw mine
PTSD when
out.
I see
Mine are
them.
gone.
Right. I just I'm not sure I'll ever be able to put them on. But one of the ladies on the trip told me later that she takes the top of her socks and pulls them down over the top of her boot.
Okay.
I went, that's brilliant.
But then you're going to get rocks in your
Yeah, beats,
getting flatlined.
right? Beats that. It's like, it's like you're one of those poor little cows that gets roped. Boom.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And yeah, it was an uncomfortable thing. I really tried to not leave, because I am the event leader and I wanted to rally the troops, but we had a very long drive. By the next day, I was incapable of walking. And in fact, if I tried to, my leg would just give out and I just fall.
Oh, wow.
And so at that point, luckily, I happened to use a company down there that is just like the best people in the world. They drove me 3.5, 4 hours to the airport. And then people in Costa Rica, they were just so kind. They were so kind. They grabbed me, they stuck me in a wheelchair. Like, I literally went out of Costa Rica in a wheelchair, and I got to Houston
Wow.
in a wheelchair too. But, I learned a lot. I learned so much. One, I learned that it's really painful when you do that. And 2, I learned that you've got to give your body a little chance to recover, because
Absolutely.
when the doctor said, well, probably 2 years, I'm like,
What?
what? That's right. Like, no way. And then,
No.
the other doctor's like, yeah, well, hate to see you using that walker, but don't get rid of it. And I'm just thinking, wait a second,
It's
get me
like,
in
do you
peace.
guys know who you're talking to?
When someone's injured, their brain is so used to enjoying the endorphins that come from exercise, that come from movement, that you have a certain amount of time. It's usually about 4 to 6 weeks before you just end up into the sobbing puddle of sadness. Like, I've had people call me sobbing, and then I was doing, I'm like, I can't move, right? But it's your brain. Your brain has gone into withdrawal from
Right. Yeah.
all the goodness that your hiking and your movement gives you. And it's a mind game as much as it is a physical game.
So are you
But
back on the trail now? How are
I
you?
am.
Yeah.
I'm actually really, really good.
If you're enjoying this episode of Just Hike, here's how you can help support the show. First, be sure to follow, download, and share this episode. It helps more adventurers like you and me discover the podcast and helps keep this journey going strong. And if you're gearing up for your next hike or just curious about my favorite outdoor gear, be sure to check out my Amazon affiliate page. I've listed all the items I actually use, from hiking shoes to trail snacks. You'll find them at justhyke.com. Every purchase through the link helps support the podcast at no extra cost to you. Thanks again for being here with me on the trail. Let's go back to our show.
I've been doing PT for 4 months, and I hiked this weekend, and I frequently carry my poles even when I wouldn't normally use them, because occasionally the leg goes offline.
Wow.
And boom, that's no fun. But I have learned, you get that subtle click and you're like, wait, stop, get it back together. So
just kind of
I would
reset.
say,
yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty much there. I still can't paddle, but other than that, I mean, I'm back to hiking without any problems.
Paddle meaning like kayaking? Gotcha.
Yeah.
Where do you like to kayak locally?
My favorite thing to do is whitewater kayak.
Oh, really?
So it's kind of hard to do in Texas.
Yes.
So I usually travel to the Carolinas and Tennessee.
Oh, okay. We recently we're just starting, I mean, my husband and I, we're just starting to discover kayaking here in Texas. We've done a few trips out to just Lake Conroe, so very flat, easy water, it's a lake. And then we went over to Bastrop. And so the Bastrop River Company, they have a great system set up where you grab their kayaks, you paddle downstream, and then they'll go and pick you up and bring you back to your vehicle.
Right.
So that was a lot of fun, but I would like something, I'm starting to get a little more brave. And so maybe something with a little bit of rapids, but
a little bit of movement.
Don't get too crazy on me. Not yet. Baby steps, baby steps. San Marcos. Okay.
It's a beautiful river.
Oh, nice.
I mean, there's a few tubers this time of year.
Yes.
Like
a lot.
A few is a lot. Yeah. But other than that, it's a beautiful river and it moves.
Nice. Well, maybe we'll have to plan for San Marcos in the fall after the tubers go away.
Right.
Yeah. Or early spring, winter kind of thing. Yeah. Very cool. That's fun. All right. Tell me about your corporate retreats and your team building. So how does nature-based team building differ from a traditional corporate workshop?
Yeah. That's so easy for me to answer, because I was leading a corporate retreat in a corporate world last Wednesday. And then Wednesday night, I was in my hill country retreat. So
nice.
The difference is, I think, a couple of things. I think one thing about being out in nature, people become a whole lot more simpatico. Like nature brings out the best in everyone. And I love that piece of it. And it also allows us to, like, I'm sure you've heard of doctors overseas writing scripts for being outside and things like that. It opens our brains up. It opens our bodies up to more, right? Like being outside just makes us feel better and be better than being in a room, right? Like a conference room. Conference rooms are great. People love them. You do lots of fun stuff. But when you're outside, you can do more fun stuff and more interesting things. There's definitely a whole lot more interesting things that I can do on an adventure retreat than a corporate retreat. Strategic retreats can be a lot of fun, without a doubt, but you get outside and you get challenged more.
Very fun. That sounds so cool. Give me one example of something that you would do with a group at an adventure or nature retreat.
Sure. If it's team building.
Okay.
A couple of ideas. One of them is you put two people together, and it's the person who's in charge normally and the employee. So you've got two different levels. Usually this person who's in charge tells this person what to do. So you switch it. Now the employee's in charge and they have to complete something together. But the person who is the employee is telling the other person what to do. So it's good because it switches everybody's role. And it also allows people to see how difficult it can be to explain things and how difficult it can be to just be told what to do. Right. And then, another one that's always fun is to get a group together and instead of letting them use their phone, they have a compass, they have a map. And you put that group together, that team, and they're placed against other teams, kind of like you would have what did they used to do? I can't think what they were called, like a navigation course where you would have
Orienteering.
Orienteering. Thank you.
Yeah.
So kind of like an orienteering, but not that extreme.
Sure.
And you just pit them against each other and say, good luck.
See you at the finish line.
Right? If not, we'll send somebody out after you.
That's right. What advice would you give someone who wants to pitch a retreat to their boss?
I think I would go back to what I just said. When you get people outside of the comfort zone of a office or a conference room or whatever, you get people outside their comfort zone a little bit and put them in a different location. Two things happen. One, when people are slightly less comfortable than they would normally be, they're usually more open to new things, like more open to learning something because they're in a situation where they need to be. The second one is it just creates camaraderie, like especially if you have an office where it's not super compatible and maybe there's some strife or anything like that. You put people outside, you give them fun things to do, and all of a sudden, everybody works together. It's the great puller together, since that's such a technical term, the great puller together of people when they get to play together.
I think retreats and team building is such an important part of the corporate culture, just because, you know, everybody has their role. They could be stuck in their little cubicles and they have their 2 or 3 people that they need to talk to each day, but then the rest of the team is there, but there's no communication happening quite often, right? And then a retreat would help build new relationships so that you can have better collaboration.
I mean, when you build those bridges, actually, the one thing I usually tell people is that when they do build that collaboration, those bridges, they start saving money.
See,
ROI.
that's the buy-in, right? You're going to save money. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Just like starting a wellness program. If you start a wellness program at your corporation, you're going to save money because people aren't going to be calling in sick as often.
That's right. And they're just more motivated. They have more energy.
More energy.
Everything gets better.
Absolutely. I agree. What is your mantra or phase that you come back to when things get tough on or off the trail? Do you have a saying that you say to yourself or anything?
I mean, it's usually more when I'm like on a mountain biking trail or a kayaking adventure, but it works with hiking too, backpacking, same thing. It's always trust your gear.
Aha, yes.
Trust your gear. And if you just trust your gear and breathe, you can usually have fun doing anything.
Nice. I like that. That reminds me of, there's a quote, I forget who said it. Basically, it is, there's no bad weather, just bad gear choices.
That's right. That is honest to goodness.
All right, we're going to do some rapid fire questions. Okay, you ready? What is your favorite gear you would recommend to every hiker?
Ooh, favorite gear to every hiker. Probably electrolytes.
Ah, nice one.
Yeah.
Like water's just not enough, right? Water is good and we need to drink water, but replacing those electrolytes is essential.
It is. It is if you want to be able to go strong and far.
Yeah. How do you recommend people to take those electrolytes? Like, do you say just sip on it all day, or do you have like a special bottle that has your electrolytes in it and you'll drink it at some point during the day?
I suggest a couple of things. One of them is depends on temperature and humidity, right? Like, you know, the hotter it is, the higher the humidity, the more you're going to sweat. And so the more you need to replace. But typically, I suggest people use a bottle. Never put it in their bladder, because if you put it in your bladder, you're going to have like some sort of scientific growth happening in your bladder at some point. And so have a bottle, and it's usually 2 things of water to 1 thing of electrolyte.
Okay.
Right. So 2 things being, you know, another scientific term. So, you know, if you've got a bottle, a liter of water, then you've got 2 liters, or you've got a liter of electrolytes, you've got 2 liters of water.
Perfect.
And, you know, you should be drinking as you go. you should be getting to that point where you're thinking about needing to pee.
Right.
You need to be thinking about it and make sure that you have some of those electrolytes to go. The last thing you want to do is bonk. Like
Oh,
when you
goodness.
get to
Yeah.
that point where you're not smart, like that's when you know
You're bonking and
it's too late. You need to hit some heavy sugar.
yeah.
You need some heavy sugar. And I usually use shot blocks or something like that I keep in my emergency kit for people.
Good.
But, if you get to that bonking point, then you're bonking when you do something that's not very smart, and you just stop and replenish. Yep.
Right. Time for a rest, time for, sugar has its time and its place, right? Like I know,
It does.
in all the diet stuff and all the nutrition stuff that's out there, it's like bad sugar, bad sugar, bad sugar. But like I said, sugar has a time and a place. And if you're out on the hiking trail, you need to replace some of those sugars because you're burning so many calories.
You do. And your brain needs it. And when people say, oh, well, I didn't want to use that one because there's sugar. But when you're out on a hiking trail, sugar is not a bad thing. And neither is caffeine and neither is salt.
Yep. I agree. Do you ever use those, the base salts? Have you ever seen those? Like they come in like it's a little container, a little portable pouch kind of thing. You just pour a little bit of salt on your palm of your hand and you take it at various points during long distance events.
I've used something like that. It wasn't
yeah.
that exact one, but there's like they're selling these little salt tablets basically
Yeah.
with a flavor to them in REI these days. And I mix my stuff up. Since we're talking about electrolytes, I always tell people to test them before they actually have to use them.
I agree. Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you get an upset stomach on the trail, that's going to be bad. No fun. And it's no fun for anybody.
No.
But having like a mix, like the salt tablets, some, shot blocks, some goo,
sugar, some goo.
You can just kind of mix it up because everybody's going to get tired of stuff at some point. Yeah.
Nice. Good advice. I like that. What is your favorite hiking snack or trail meal?
Ooh, trail meals. I'm kind of boring. I am pretty much nuts. Yeah. Nuts. That's really my trail meal.
Gotcha.
I am a vegetarian. So, if somebody is listening and they're like, well, I'd rather eat other stuff, I get it. But nuts kind of get me through where I need to go. And maybe a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
I love peanut butter and jelly. That's like one of my favorites. Yeah, and nuts. I like trail mixes with cranberries in it.
Oh, yeah.
I really like cranberries. So
a little bit of fruit in there. That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Is there a hike that you've done in your lifetime that has changed your mindset?
Changed my mindset. Yes. There was one. I was out in the Smokies and I was actually out there to kayak. I have a friend out there who didn't want to paddle that day and I hadn't seen him. And he said, hey, why don't you meet me? Let's go do Charlie's Bunyan. And I said, sure, why not? I have this bad saying in my head, which was, how bad could it be? I have no hiking gear with me. I have skis that my dogs had chewed the laces off. So they're just kind of like flapping along. I have nothing. I show up and I look like a hobo. Like I could see it in his face. He's like, whoa, I'm taking you on Charlie's Bunyan. It's not a big hike, but it's not a far, it's not a bad hike either. It's like 8 miles out and back, a little bit of elevation.
Yeah.
So I do it and we have fun. We have a lot of fun. We get finished. And I said to him, I went, I could have been better prepared for that one. And he said, kind of too. I was like, yeah. And then when I was driving back to where I was staying, I was thinking, you know what? There would be a time in my life when I wouldn't have done that because I didn't have proper footwear. Now, guys, you need proper footwear, but we can do anything a little bit. I was just dragging a bottle of water along. I had no day pack or anything. I was like one of those people out there, just kind of like a deer in the headlights. But it was so much fun. And I enjoyed it so much. And it was so good to connect with a friend that I hadn't seen in a long time. And it changed my mindset about always having to be like that uber professional person who shows up at the hike and has everything for everybody and is just ready for everything. I was like, try something different. And it was worth it.
That's awesome. I love that. Sometimes we can just wing it. Yes. And I think maybe the friend that you had with you was prepared. Like, I think I would be a little more apprehensive if both of you went out there unprepared.
He was prepared, but he wasn't prepared for the distance,
Oh, yeah.
right? That was a
Yeah.
little bit further than he would normally have done. So, like I said earlier, I can usually do the endurance stuff. He was prepared as far as having the right stuff along. I was prepared that, I could have carried him back. So between the two of us, we had each other covered.
Yeah. All righty. Do you have a dream hiking destination?
Ooh, a dream hiking destination. States or international?
Whatever.
Whatever. Huh? So I am not a huge climber.
Okay.
Kilimanjaro, I'm like, sounds
It's
interesting.
it's not technical.
I mean, let me
It's a
rephrase that.
hike.
I don't mind climbing. I'm not a huge, let's go straight up the mountain kind of person.
Sure.
So I like my hikes to be a little bit more casual these days. So I would say that some of them that I'm looking at is I've never hiked Utah.
Oh, nice.
And
Some great hikes.
several hikes in Utah that are on my list. And now that I said I don't really like going up and down, I will do the Grand Canyon too. Once I'm out there, it's going to happen.
That's right. I did the Grand Canyon about 6 weeks ago now. We were there just before May 1st or right around May 1st, and it actually snowed the night we were there. And we woke up and it was 24 degrees in the morning, which was beautiful. It's actually a nice temperature to start hiking in. But I wasn't really prepared for the snow. All I brought was my trail runners with me. So instead of doing the original hike that we had planned, we were going to go all the way into the canyon, go to Phantom Ranch, and then come back up. A couple of us, a friend of mine and I, we decided we went a little bit of South Kaibab, and then we did 3 mile turnaround point, and then back up again. And that was plenty for the day. Yeah,
Oh,
it was a good
yeah.
hike.
And
It was
those
beautiful.
that's smart,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, I'm talking about like just showing up without, your stuff. And then there's also just being smart, because when
Yeah.
you get cold or it's slippery or you're wet, I mean, there's a difference.
There is. Yeah. Yeah. And it was good. We had a good time. It was a beautiful hike. My favorite part is getting my feet on the dirt. And I got my feet on the dirt and I was a happy camper.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. 2 more questions and then we're going to wrap it up. Do you prefer music or silence when you're training? Like when you're working out at home or when you're doing, like, let's say a training hike, what do you
If I'm outside, it's always silence. If I'm at home, I might be listening to more like a motivational, video from somebody. I don't really listen to music working out.
Gotcha. Me neither. Even when I drive in my car, I'm typically not listening to anything unless it's a podcast. When I'm at home working out, it's like you said, I'll put on somebody's video and I'll just follow along, right? Because I don't have to make stuff up. It's like I make stuff up for people all day long. I don't need to design my own. I just follow along. All right, last question. Do you prefer a morning hike or a sunset hike?
I am a morning person. I am up at 4:30.
Oh,
so
wow.
I've got to do something.
Well, thank you so much, Kelly. I appreciate you being on the show today. Is there anything else that you want to share with our audience? I'll make sure that we have your contact information in the show notes. So whatever links you want to send to me, please send them and I'll make sure that gets added. But is there anything else you want to share?
I'd just like to say thank you so much for having me on here. I really appreciate it.
And thank you so much for agreeing to be on here. I'm excited for this journey that we're on.